Demonic presence at unsafe levels. Lockdown in effect.
There are many demons, but there's only one.
Electro Demon.
Around 10 seconds ago. Damn it! They've got a little freaky MP down there. Getting clipped just saved your ass, Marine. I just lost all readings from the rest of the platoon. Try and get to the primary LZ and rendezvous with any other squad leaders you can find. Shit! Just overshot LZ, Command.
Quake II is a legendary shooter from the masters of the first-person shooter genre, id Software. It came out in 1997 and it was universally praised for its gameplay and graphics. I never played it before, but I did finish it yesterday, so here's my take on Quake II. Quake II takes place in a sci-fi environment. You play as Bitterman, a soldier trying to stop the invasion of Earth by aliens called the Strogg. You're invading the home planet of the Strogg, and your aircraft crashes before you reach the landing zone. It's up to you to reach the Strogg capital city and kill the Strogg leader, the Macron. It's not a story-focused game, and this is something that is expected from a shooter of this type, especially an id Software shooter. There are CGI cutscenes after you finish a level, but it's nothing to write home about. Quake II is all about gameplay. Quake II is actually a big departure thematically from the first Quake game. Quake I had a gothic feel, but Quake II has nothing to do with the Quake I storyline or its themes. So you play as Bitterman, a random sci-fi soldier carrying hordes and hordes of the Strogg. This time around, levels have a hub system. Basically, a level is a unit. A unit has many smaller levels that you can freely traverse through. There will be puzzles and some backtracking. It's nothing too convoluted, but it's mostly press a switch here and go to the open door there, that sort of stuff. Even though there's backtracking involved, I hardly found myself getting lost, so that's a testament of the level design. Top-class level design. Speaking of levels, they are well designed, but goddamn they all look the same. It's hard to tell what part of Quake II I like the most, because all the units, well, they look the same. There will be a level here and there that lets you trek outside for a little bit, but mostly all the levels are indoors. And they kinda all look the same. Sci-fi industrial look, that's how I'd call it. They're not bad levels, but it's just nothing really stands out. So let's talk about the enemies, the Strogg forces. There's a great variation of enemies, smaller ones, big ones, dogs, flying enemies, big tank-like brutes, and a couple of bosses thrown in for good measure. I like how when you kill an enemy, it falls on the ground and it continues shooting at you while it dies. This was a big thing back in '97, quite revolutionary. You can prevent this by jibbing them to pieces. All the enemies jib, and that's something I appreciate very much. Now let's talk about the weapons. The first weapon you start out with is a pistol called the Blaster. It's a PE shooter good only for starting enemies. Then you get your hands on the shotgun. It's good sounding and it does solid damage. But when you get your hands on the Super Shotgun, you'll hardly use it ever again. Super Shotgun is fucking awesome. It sounds powerful and it's just that. Capable of instantly jibbing lower tier enemies. Then there's the Machine Gun, a solid weapon good for crowd control. It has recoil for some reason. Then there's the Chain Gun, basically a minigun that has insane fire rate. Uses the same ammunition as the machine gun. It eats through bullets like crazy, but goddamn it's fun to use. Then there are the grenades. A great weapon, but you'll hardly use them when you find the grenade launcher. I often use the grenade launcher, especially for bigger enemies that appear in narrow hallways. The grenades bounce off the walls, making them perfect to use in said hallways. Then there's the Hyper Blaster, a weapon that shoots orange energy crap. Its damage output is high and it's a very useful weapon. Then there's the Rocket Launcher, which is, as the name suggests, a weapon that launches rockets. Awesome weapon. And my personal favorite weapon is the Railgun. It shoots a powerful blue beam that does massive damage. It has a cooldown so you can't spam it too much. And the final weapon is the BFG, which is the most powerful weapon in the game. It devastates enemies. Lives up to its name. The BFG stands for Big Fucking Gun. Then there are the power-ups. Most of them are useless, but invulnerability and quad damage are awesome. Quad damage is what it says it is. A power-up that amplifies your damage 4 times. The soundtrack in this game is just fucking art. composed by Sonic Mayhem and it's metal as fuck. Really fits the game and makes you blood pumping. Quake II is about 8 hours long without expansions and it's really an awesome game. In 1997 this was heralded as the best shooter ever. And I agree, it's a vicious old school romp with a brilliant arsenal of weapons and great enemies. The locations could be a bit more diverse, but it is what it is. It's hard to not draw comparisons with Unreal. They came out roughly at the same time and Unreal was dubbed as the Quake killer. And in my opinion it succeeded in that. Unreal is a better game than Quake II. The weapons are pretty similar but Unreal had alternate fire modes. The locations are 10 times better in Unreal. The AI of the enemies is not bad in Quake II, but Unreal has better AI, no question about that. Quake II does have better level design. I often found myself getting lost in Unreal, which is a rare thing in Quake II. But Quake II is not a bad game, in fact it's pretty awesome. I highly suggest that you play both. It's a great notch to have under your FPS belt. The graphics in Quake II. Quake II uses the E-Tech Engine 2 and it's a fully 3D engine. It was praised when it was released, but it's hard for me to comment on its look in 2020. I ran the game on Windows 10, but I played the Yamagi version because it supports widescreen resolutions. Quake II is available on GOG for a cheap price and it's worth it. Just make sure after you buy the game you download the Yamagi patch to have access to widescreen resolutions and other graphical goodies. If I had to give a score to this game, I'd give it 9 out of 10.